Despite not having won a Test series away from home since 1993, India could point to recent victories over Australia and South Africa as a guide to their good form at home. The visit of the Sri Lankans for 3 Tests promised a more balanced contest than the 2 matches the sides had fought out in Colombo in August, which had produced no less than 12 centuries and very little joy for the bowlers. As it turned out, the bat would dominate the ball once again, and although India held the upper hand for most of the series, all 3 matches were drawn. The first Test at Mohali began well for the tourists, with a partnership of 98 between Jayasuriya and Atapattu. Jayasuriya was well caught at slip for 53, which surprisingly would be his highest score of the series. But the highlight of a good first day with the Sri Lankans was a maiden Test century for Atapattu. He was eventually dislodged on 108 by Srinath after a prolonged LBW appeal was held up by umpire Venkat. His dismissal and that of Aravinda de Silva for 33 took the gloss off a fine day for Sri Lanka, which ended at 280 for 4, having been put in. India's bowlers made a good start to the second day, at one stage taking 4 wickets for 12 runs as the pitch took on an unpredictable nature. Srinath claimed the last wicket, bowling Sanjeewa de Silva for 6 to finish with 4 for 92, and Sri Lanka ended their innings on 369. When India batted, they attacked from the start, and it wasn't long before openers Mongia and Sidhu raised the century partnership. Mongia was bowled for 57, but Sidhu moved to an excellent 100 with a powerfully swept 6 off the off-spin of Muralitharan. Sidhu was eventually run out for 131 from 372 balls, with the score on 259. And although Tendulkar went for 23 soon after, the chance of a first innings lead wasn't passed up. Sourav Ganguly masterminded the tale superbly, with an innings of 109, which included 10 fours and 2 glorious sixes, again off Muralitharan. By the time he reached his ton, the lead was over 100, and when he finally chipped Vas to mid-wicket, his side were 146 to the good and able to declare. The last day became a simple matter of survival for the visitors, and for a while it seemed they wouldn't meet the challenge. When skipper Ranatunga fell to a catch at short leg and then Tilakaratne edged to slip, Sri Lanka still trailed by 40. But crucially, Aravinda was still there and carrying on the sort of form that had brought him 6 centuries in his last 6 tests. After a poor tour of New Zealand, he battled to 3 figures once again. In partnership with first Dharmasena and then wicketkeeper Lanka de Silva, he shepherded his side to safety, and the players came off to much applause, with Sri Lanka 105 ahead and Aravinda unbeaten on a marvellous 110. The second Test at Nagpur was a complete washout after lunch on the 3rd day, by which time India had mustered a healthy total of 485 all out. But it was also a tale of disappointment for 2 of the rising stars of Indian cricket, as both Dravid and Ganguly were dismissed in the 90s, Ganguly agonisingly for 99. His dismissal came coincidentally just 2 minutes after Greg Blewett had been dismissed on the same score in the 3rd Test for Australia against New Zealand. So the teams moved to Mumbai with the series still in the balance. Ranatunga won the toss for Sri Lanka, but would have regretted his decision to field when the hosts rattled up another large score in their first innings. Dravid looked set for 100, but again fell in the 90s after a patient knock of 93, this time to a great slip catch by Mahanama. The disappointment of his dismissal was soon forgotten by the home supporters, as Ganguly and Tendulkar added 256 for the 3rd wicket in fine style. The only consolation for Ranatunga would be the way his bowlers fought back after the partnership was broken. Pushpakamura knocked over Tendulkar, Azharuddin and Kumble in quick succession, and the innings ended in farce with the run-out of Prasad. Sri Lanka's response was spirited, with Atapattu moving close to another century before succumbing to the off-spin of Chowne for 98. Aravinda weighed in with 66, including a 6 over mid-wicket off Kumble, but the Indian glee that greeted his edge to the keeper was testament to his importance to the visitors' cause. Lanka de Silva then took a nasty blow in the face from Srinath, which forced his retirement, and the fast bowler followed up with the wicket of Wickramasinghe, his 100th in tests. With only a day and a half left to drive home their first innings advantage, India set out in pursuit of quick runs. Only Sidhu and Dravid made scores of note, with the spinners keeping the batsmen in check. But one could only feel sorry for Dravid, as he again perished when in sight of his century, this time for 85 to a good catch from Aravinda. The main benefactor of the Indian approach was Dharmasena, who picked up 5 for 57, the best figures of the series. India declared at 181 for 9 with a day to play. Sri Lanka's target was 333, but they never threatened it, although whilst Jayasuriya was there, they had an outside chance. His dismissal to Kumble with a score on 73 effectively extinguished their hopes of a win, although Aravinda's aggressive approach indicated otherwise. His wicket forced the Sri Lankans into their shells, and Ranatunga and Mahanama defended for close to 3 hours before Chowne had Mahanama contentiously LBW, offering no shot, and then bowled Ranatunga round his legs. Although Kumble picked up the further wickets of Dharmasena and Lanka de Silva, the rain came to offer salvation. Sri Lanka had survived for a drawn series, but India must feel they had the opportunities to force at least one win from 3 matches.